All right, we're back. So this is just as I said, I'm just going to show you what your homework should look like once you've completed it, or at least a possible version of it. And there we go. So as I said, you've got two balls, one of which runs at half the speed of the other one, just to make it interesting. It actually does make it more interesting when you do this, because you have to kind of decide which one you're going to try and get. And as you'll see, the ball bounces off the left and right, which has this kind of interesting rebound quality. That's it actually works out. That's got interesting gameplay implications, because when you're playing against the opponent, if you make the ball go just behind his bat, it'll kind of ricochet off the back of him like that, and you'll score lots of points, because you score a point every time the ball bounces off the left or the right side. You can see this guy 21 goes to 22, 23. The score over here goes up when either ball hits the wall on the other side. So it creates this potential to try and entrap people by making the ball bounce behind them, which is also mitigated by the ability to move the paddle in and out a little bit like that. So you can kind of play with that horizontal axis, which also allows you to kind of change slightly when the ball is going to bounce. It gives you more control. You can make the bounce happen a bit earlier or later by moving. And as I said, when you move up and down, we'll now make it stop so it doesn't fall off the screen. So that's what I'll show you here is kind of like the minimum requirement for those extra features that I mentioned. Was there a question?
Just maybe it doesn't matter, but like when you say within 100 pixels of the edge, which part of the brick are you measuring?
I think it's the centre. I think it's probably specified in detail inside the actual exercise template. I think I've said it somewhere. So that's basically the idea. So this is the kind of the minimum, but this is a good opportunity for you to do more than the minimum, right? Future exercises, in fact, they're going to start allowing you more creativity, where you'll actually be able to get like extra marks for doing additional things. For the Pong one, it's quite difficult to do that. So the basic marking scheme is simple, but what I'm going to say is if you can do more than this, then that would be good and would be appreciated. Although it won't be formally part of the marking, although I might offset it against if you've got like a small error, but you've done a cool thing, I might allow the cool thing to outweigh the error. And when we're talking about cool things, it's just stuff that you can make as like obvious extensions to this, mostly based on what you already know. So that would be like better graphics, add some colour to the paddles, or maybe have the background be something other than a flat white image, so you can do something interesting there. If any of you can figure out how to do sound, then go for it. Just don't make it really annoying though, because for markers that can be maybe have some discretion or an option to mute the sound, maybe an M toggle for muting the sound. There are actually quite a few things you can do here, right? And I'm going to allow you to kind of think about it. There are a number of sort of little tweaks you can make to Pong to make it more interesting, and that's definitely on the table for this week's homework exercise. Although, as I say, they're kind of they're optional extras, but they're getting you ready for future exercises where I'm going to want you to kind of come up with your own ideas. So, any questions about what's required from you there? I think I've described it fairly clearly. One thing to watch out for is, how I did say that we'd simplified the collision detection, and that can show up here. If you try, you can push the paddle through the ball a little bit with it. Let's see, I don't know if I can reproduce it. You might find you get some slight there. Do you see that? I managed to kind of move the paddle through the ball. That's because the paddle was moving while the ball was moving, and we didn't really account for that in our collision detector. We had kind of assumed that the paddles were stationary. So don't worry about that. That's my bug, not yours, right? I just didn't write it to be general enough, and I'm not going to, not yet anyway. Doing real collision detection is something we'll come back to in future weeks. So don't worry about that little quirk that you can sometimes force your way through the ball. But the rest of it should kind of work fairly well. And this has got the pause and single step in it, which again you might find useful when you're trying to watch what's happening yourself, just to let you see what's really going on when you're playing the thing. All right, I think that's sufficient.